Hey guys, and welcome back to the Virtual Reality Show, where we talk about any and all things related to virtual reality inside virtual reality. I'm your host, PHIA. Phantom touch. You've probably heard of people who can experience physical sensations of being touched while inside virtual reality without the need of a haptic suit. It's scary, exciting, and just plain weird that our bodies can produce a physical response to something simulated. So, what's going on? What does it feel like? And what is happening inside the brains of people who do experience this phenomena? I decided to put together my own research in search of answers. Firstly, I knew I needed to talk to people who do experience phantom touch to understand what it is. I put together a survey to collect my own data, answering the questions that I had about it. But while I waited for data to roll in, I went ahead and grabbed some friends and pulled them into VR chat to have them explain to me how they experience phantom touch.
When I got into VR, like my first reaction for some reason was to just give a lot of people hugs. And when I did, like I had a weird feeling on my chest every single time I hugged someone, and I didn't really associate it with anything, but the more and more as time went along, like the more physical interactions I had with people, the more times I've given head pats or high fives, anything like that, I started noticing a pattern and a correlation between the game and my physical body reactions.
Phantom touch, yeah. But like the whole thing for me started is that I started feeling when people stood next to me and I felt like they went through me, and then I advanced to the whole touch thing because I felt their arm next to mine. And eventually they'd be like, oh, hello, or something, and say and touch, and I would feel that. So it started like that. That's why I explored it.
So you say you explored it. So after you experienced that, what was your reaction? Like, you were obviously intrigued, but what did you do to explore that?
First of all, I was shocked. And then, of course, I was like, can you touch my arm again? Because I was curious, and I'm always curious. And of course, people join and touch your head and pat and everything because your avatar is cute. Then I felt that too. So it was about asking people can you try this? Because I don't understand. And I looked it up online as well. And then it was called Phantom Touch or Sense or whatever. So I explored it by just meeting people that also have that or are curious about just touching others.
And then someone actually came up to me while I was in that dog saloon or whatever it was. People are hanging around the mirrors. And that's kind of when I found out I had something like phantom touch. I didn't know what it was, but they were putting their hands close to my face. I'm just oh, I can kind of feel that. They're like, what? You have phantom touch? I'm like, what's that? And then they just kind of swarmed around me, and they're just kind of poking and booping and just kind of abusing it. So I find it a little uncomfortable when it's around people, other people. I choose not to tell them unless it's closer friends. It's interesting, but it's definitely open for abuse to strangers.
Do you actively kind of avoid telling people about phantom touch when you're out and about because people will start touching you and stuff?
Oh yeah, they take advantage of it all the time. It's something you don't want to tell people unless you're into that kind of thing.
It definitely has a connection with how immersed you are. So say, for example, I'm somewhat new to VR or something like that, and I'm just poking you, but I'm still aware that I'm around in the real world with other people. The effects of phantom touch are going to be very little to none because you don't allow yourself to be immersed. You don't allow yourself to be part of the game.
Sometimes it catches me out of focus. I don't expect it, so it just throws me off.
How would you describe what the sensation is like? Because you said you could almost feel it, kind of when they were getting close to you. So what does it feel like? On your body, what does it explain?
So you can't literally feel it, but it's almost like a tingling, fuzzy sensation in spots that you would expect something to touch you on. You touch their nose, it touched your nose, you would feel my nose would feel warm and fuzzy. Or down my arms, it would be kind of like that. The hugs, like you said, kind of like it's a weird like fuzzy sensation. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. It doesn't feel like anything's actually there, but it just feels like some sort of chemical reaction. It's very strange.
Once I lose my immersion, I kind of lose like feeling for it.
Like today, I explored this with a friend who just picked up a hairbrush in the room, and was like, "Oh, your hair looks nice." And I had another avatar with really long hair, and he actually touched me with the brush, and I felt the bristles, which was so weird.
So now, when it comes to say VR chat and like how it makes you feel in the game, for a lot of people, Phantom Touch is something that's really uncomforting. Some people have issues with any physical kind of reaction they've had IRL, whether it's abuse or anything like that. And then when somebody goes to touch them in VR, it can cause them a lot of discomfort. So they actually keep the personal space option checked in the game settings. So I've heard a lot of people say it's discomforting, but a lot of people say that it helps out with anxiety and anything else like that. And it definitely helps with any like stressful thoughts.
Consent is important, even in VR. It's nice if people ask if you're okay with being touched, not just run by and yeah, because you don't expect it, of course.
My survey I mentioned before was up for a couple weeks, and I got 128 unique sets of data from those people who can feel inside virtual reality. I'm now going to walk through the results step by step so we can understand Phantom Touch better and see if there's any trends that we should take from it. The first question I asked was, how often do people with PT experience it? The results were fairly evenly distributed, with the largest majority weighing in at some or most of the time while in VR. Next, I asked about what kind of sensations people would have. A whopping 70% of people said they experienced tingling, making it the most common feeling people had in my sample group. About half had the fuzziness my friends explained to me, and about a quarter said they had a numb feeling. What was particularly surprising to me was the pleasure section. If you remember back to my ERP video, I explained how some people are able to feel pleasure using Phantom Touch. A whopping 25% of my respondents admitting to having experienced sexual pleasure, while over half said that they felt just pleasure in general. About a tenth of respondents even said they had experienced pain. Feeling temperature was also common, heat being the most prominent versus cold. Other respondents put in feeling things like heartbeats, squeezing, weight, pulsing, scratching, and throbbing. There was a wide variety of different sensations that people seemed to get, and these sensations greatly varied from one person to another. The most common stimulus for Phantom Touch is player-to-player interaction, coming in at 86%. Half of respondents said that they could feel projectiles, such as gunshots, coming at them. Now, the most interesting piece of data I found was this. Has your Phantom Touch sensitivity increased over time? I figured that over time, people would get immune to these sensations. I thought maybe your body would wear out or your brain would become more aware of the illusion. But the results showed me just the opposite. While a large portion was unsure if their sensitivity had changed, 42% of respondents said that their sensitivity had increased over time, while only 7% said it had gotten worse. Quite opposite to my initial guess. It was a pretty even split on whether or not people actively search out triggers, and a similar split on whether or not they choose to share this information with others. And of course, here's the most juicy results. I'm not going to linger too much on this one, but here's the graph, so feel free to pause the video and scope this one out for yourself. What all of this led me to was trying to find out what was happening inside the brains of people who experience this phenomena. It reminded me a lot of a previous discussion I've had on TVRS with Joachim from Alt VR about identity in inhabiting a virtual body, where he talked to me about the rubber hand experiment. Our brains are capable of simulating sensations that we see, even if we do not actually feel them. Our brains identify with our virtual avatars, and those perceptions can be taken to that physical level. This is closely related to something called mirror touch synesthesia, a type of synesthesia that occurs when someone feels a physical sensation while watching someone else being touched. For example, if you tap your cheek, someone with mirror touch synesthesia would also feel a similar sensation on their own cheek just from watching you.
Well, I think it's really similar to like the phantom touch, except it's more of like a visual stimulus when it comes to like seeing somebody else receive that sort of physical input, like even if like through a TV or like a picture or like whatever. Like I mentioned in your Google Doc, like if I watch somebody like getting a shot at the doctors, you know, I'll feel like a little pinch on my arm, like it's weird. But yeah.
How often would you say that you do that? Because I feel like it would be very hard to live, like day to day, if every time you saw someone being touched, you felt that. So it's got to be like I'm sure you don't feel it every single time, right?
I mean, it's usually if I'm like really like honed in on that thing, and I think it's more of an anxious response. Like, you know, when you're like watching a movie and like they're underwater, you feel like it's kind of harder to breathe because you put yourself in their shoes. So it's kind of like a form of empathy, if you will.
Scientific American describes synesthesia as an anomalous blending of the senses in which the stimulation of one modality simultaneously produces sensation in a different modality. Commonly, this produces effects like seeing colors when listening to music or associating certain personality traits with numbers. But synesthesia includes the blending of any senses, which in this case would be sight and touch. I believe that phantom touchers see stimulus in their brain associates that with physical sensations in a type of touch synesthesia. There's even smaller examples of these, quote, misperceptions like phantom phone vibrations, which brings me to think that maybe the way we determine reality is not as clear-cut as we once thought. The truth about what we see and feel can be simulated through virtual stimuli, and suddenly it is our perceptions that become real. After all this talk with those who have phantom touch, I started getting jealous. I wish my brain would do this kind of immersion. It's exciting and fun and something I want to experience firsthand. And for a lot of you watching, I'm sure you feel the same way. Luckily, during my research, I stumbled upon a surprising YouTube channel, Amanugai, a virtual hypnotist. Now, the video I found was of Amanugai hypnotizing a group of VR chat users into feeling phantom touch, and I immediately knew that I had to try this out for myself. The fact that I could have a shot at experiencing this was too good of an opportunity to miss out on, so I reached out and he agreed to filming a demo with me so that not only could I learn about being hypnotized into phantom touch, but you guys could be introduced into it as well.
Hello. So, again, I'm Amanugai. I'm a virtual hypnotist. I do hypnosis in virtual reality as well as other games. I combine the effects of hypnosis to give the feeling of touch in VR, feeling of fire from explosions in other video games, basically enhancing the general gameplay experience all across the board.
So tell me about the effectiveness of hypnosis, and because I feel like a lot of people would be watching this video and probably be kind of skeptical that like something like this could actually work. So what would you say to the skeptical type people?
Well, hypnosis is pretty much a skill that anybody can practice, and like any skill, there's levels of, you know, from beginners to average to the really skilled. What people are mostly familiar with on like TV shows and on stage shows is like the top percentage of people who, you know, instantly drop, who instantly do all these things, but everyone else is more on the average kind of end. So the effectiveness is pretty much like that, but the more you practice it, the more effective it gets. Like it's like learning to ride a bike. The better you get at it, the more smoothly you be able to ride, and the more extreme kind of paths you can take.
So I came to you today specifically because I've been creating this episode about Phantom Touch. And for me, I have never really experienced it. I've never had that, like, oh, that aha moment where I feel like I was feeling it. But I've been researching and I conducted a survey and I had a whole bunch of people, answer that. I had some friends that I interviewed who do have it and talked to them about it. And so I was really excited to kind of learn that there's actually a shot that I could possibly have, Phantom Touch or get to experience it. And that my viewers could also be introduced into that possibility as well. You agreed today to go ahead and do a hypnosis demo. So if you want to go ahead and get started with that for me, that'd be amazing.
Yep, pretty much. So there's a pre-talk. Basically, just going to quickly explain how hypnosis works. So hypnosis is a very focused, natural state of mind. Your mind naturally goes into states of trance all throughout the day, whether you're reading a book, you're watching a movie, or you're really intensely playing a video game. Any of those moments where the background naturally fades away and you're super focused on one thing is trance. When you receive a suggestion to experience something in that state of mind, that's called hypnosis together. So all you need to do to be hypnotized is, again, to be willing to be hypnotized and to be able to follow along with very simple instructions. And of course, helps if you can hear me clearly and if you're able to be in a safe, relaxed, and comfortable position, either sitting back, laying back, or lying down. Normally, when I do hypnosis in real life, I'm able to physically catch that person if by any chance they go under while standing up. But for anyone doing this at home or following along at home, I suggest you sit down and make sure you're safe. Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. So if we're doing this from your point of view, what I want you to do is make sure you have something to focus on. So it could be that white ball right there or anywhere else, whatever grabs your attention. And if you like, we can begin. And as a reminder, if you do not want to be hypnotized, you don't have to be. You can just sit back, relax, and enjoy. So as you focus right now on the center of that object, you can just take a nice big, deep breath all the way in and then all the way out. Just like that. And again, breathing all the way in, nice, slowly, holding, and all the way out, deeply, emptying those lungs. And then one more time, breathing all the way in, holding, and then all the way out, deeply. You're doing absolutely great and absolutely fantastic. And all you need to do is just keep that focus and keep taking those nice, big, deep, even breaths. And naturally, you can notice you can still hear things around you. You can still feel things beneath you, your bed or your chair. And that's absolutely natural because hypnosis is not sleep. It's not falling unconscious. It's a state of mind where you're so focused on my voice, focused on that point, that everything else, like those things, naturally fade away. And the more closely you focus and you take those nice, deep, even breaths, the more relaxed you can naturally feel. Your chest muscles, those nerves, naturally release tension. And naturally, the more better you relax, the better you can feel. The better you can feel, the more closely you can listen to the sound of my voice. The more closely you listen to the sound of my voice, the more powerfully you can find yourself focusing even more clearly on every single word, on every single syllable. You're doing absolutely great and absolutely fantastic. And you can just think about all those times where you might have had a daydream, where you were just zoned out. Or you can zone in on the sound of my words right now. All those times where you had so much fun, where you're just watching those movies, playing those video games, reading the book, when time just flew by so fast, just like that. That feeling, even more so. All those times when you're going to sleep, all those times when you're waking up from bed, where you're just feeling groggy and still like in a dreamy-like state. That feeling you can just remember, but bringing back even more clearly, even more powerfully. You're doing absolutely great and absolutely fantastic. And you just take another nice, big, deep breath all the way in and all the way out. And just start to slowly start to close your eyes. Only as fast as you allow yourself right now to relax even more deeply, to feel even better, to listen even more closely, and to focus even harder right now, even as your eyes close. And when I say sleep on the count of 3, it doesn't mean to fall over, to fall unconscious, to go asleep. It just means you can close your eyes, to shut out those distractions, to relax everything in your body, your shoulders and your neck, and to sharpen that focus from everything around you to the point of my voice. Like there's a line going from between your eyes, from your mind, straight to the tip of my voice, my mouth. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Close, sleep. Relaxing, deep, all the way down, all the way deep, all the way fast asleep, drifting, dreaming, floating, flying to a very pleasant place, and you are there. And as you're there right now, you still notice you're awake. In fact, you might be becoming more aware of your surroundings, more hyper aware, hyper concentrated. All the small little details popping up around you, even the feeling the clothing against your skin, and everything else around you, all those details popping up. But as naturally as they come, you can just let them float over, through, and around you, and taking all that focus, all that attention, all that concentration, and just bring it to my voice right now. Because as you're listening to my voice, you're understanding my words. Because as you're understanding my words, they're going through your subconscious right now, so that it's possible for you to understand them. You don't have to think about what each of my words mean, because your subconscious is already translating it for you, including the meanings of these following words. Hypnosis is a state of mind that belongs solely to you right now. If I or anyone else were to say something that makes you feel uncomfortable at any point in time, you have full control, and no matter what suggestions are going on, you can naturally find yourself waking up. But so as long as you find the things I'm saying helpful to you, fun for you, good for you, then you can let all of those sink in naturally, deeply, all the way in. And hypnosis is a skill that you practice. The more and more you go into the state of mind, the more and more you find yourself zoning out, the more and more you listen like this each time you go to sleep. The stronger and stronger you can get. When it comes to phantom touch, you can find yourself noticing the boundaries of the objects in VR more clearly and how that interacts with your hands and your face, even more so. The more you notice how, instead of passing through those objects, how you touch them, the more and more you immerse yourself in VR, naturally, the more likely phantom touch is to arise. And you can let that sink all the way in, all the way deep, as you wake up on the count of 5, feeling nice, wide awake, nice and refreshed as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can open your eyes, and let everything kind of naturally just come back into awareness, into view.
Well, that was like that was very relaxing. It was very good. So thank you so much for doing that.
Mhm.
I feel like even for people who don't necessarily, are able to get like hypnotized all the way, it's still such a relaxing experience that I would encourage anybody to try just for well-being in general. So it's really a special thing, I think.
Yep. And I do highly encourage it because it's one of the best ways to kind of get in touch with your inner mind, yourself, and those resources that we often have like consciously locked back in our mind. It's what professional athletes do. They literally hypnotize themselves to bring out their peak performance, and anybody can do that with the right training.
For people who are interested more in what you do, or maybe interested in doing hypnosis themselves, where can they reach you, and what do you provide?
You can reach me at, again, my name, Amanugai. I'm on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, most of the places. And if you're interested in Phantom Touch, I highly suggest you check out my welcome playlist on my YouTube channel. Definitely.
Perfect. Well, I will be linking all your stuff below. So anybody who's interested in that, make sure you go check it out and show some support. All right. So, after getting sucked into making this episode for a few weeks, loads of research, jealousy, filming, data collection, and hypnotism, I finally got my Valve Index in the mail. I loaded up VR chat with my new headset and full body trackers, and all of a sudden, VR felt more alive and vivid than ever before. I went into one of my favorite worlds and picked up this little rose and brushed it freely with my finger, and I froze. What was that? As my finger brushed over the petals, I felt them. Soft, damp, layered. I wasn't thinking about it or trying to get a phantom touch from it. I was just immersed. And now, everything's different. This virtual world is my home. It's personal because I feel it. Well, guys, that's it for this episode. Making this video led me down a really crazy journey and was a few weeks worth of work, but it turned out to be well worth it. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe to the Virtual Reality Show channel. And if you want to talk more about virtual reality related topics, then make sure to join my Discord, link in the description. Anyways, I've been your host, PHIA, and I'll see you on next week's episode. Bye! Special thanks to my Patreon members and Virtual VIP, Top Waffle,